Hello and welcome to Paxton Road TV. I am Sam, Spurs for Life, and this is Talking Points. And tonight's Talking Point special is, what does the Newcastle Takeover mean for Spurs? And in the house, as usual, we have special guests, not even special guests. They are Paxton Road themselves, Paxton Road TV, residents in the house, Mike-Hotspur Hustler, Fit Spurs. We will be joined also by Darius Brike in a little while. He's running a little bit late. Welcome, gentlemen. This is Talking Points. We have now been through this next international break. I know England are playing. I even forgot they were playing tonight. But anyway, before we start the show, like, subscribe, share, comment. Please, thank you very much for getting us to those 1,000 subs. We appreciate it much. We're going to bring you a lot more content, memberships, merchandise, all the rest of it, all to come, but in good time. Anyway, let us get into the show. Let's get the banner up. There we go. That looks a bit more professional. We've got to be professional these days. Welcome, Mike. Welcome, Sid. Yeah, another Premiership team is taken over by more and more billionaires. This one, a Saudi consortium, something like 300 odd billion pounds or dollars or whatever it is worth of money, 10 times richer than the current owner of Manchester City, who are doing bits and pieces, and what, 100 times richer, would you say?
Yeah.
100 times richer than
probably
Mr.
more
Lee?
than that.
I think he's worth 3 billion or something like that. And these lot are worth 300 and something billion. So
they're 15 times richer than Man City. So
it's scary for us. That's that sort of money we can only dream of. I know that people like, Darius has probably got that in his back pocket, but I haven't. Anyway, let's talk more serious. Right, so the show, let's put it up one more time. What does the Newcastle Takeover mean for Spurs? So, guys, if you're watching, please send us your comments, send us your thoughts. Whew, I'm going to put up a little bit of a graphic here. Let us do this. Let us start with the first thing here. Right, okay. As you know, guys, the show's about what does it mean for us. New owner bounce, obviously. I say obviously. And it's typical Spurs. On Sunday, we play Newcastle. Usually, if you have a new manager, you get the new manager bounce. What are we going to have with Newcastle having a new owner bounce? Are we going to see these players playing for their futures? Are we going to see Steve Bruce trying to at least put out a team to show these owners that he means business? Is he the man? I don't think he's going to be long-term for them. But what do you expect to happen when, how does this impact us going into the weekend? I'm going to start off with you, Sid. How do you think this new owners impact is going to have on the game coming at the weekend?
Do you know what? New owners, new players, never won a game, never scored a goal. Any team that plays Tottenham, all them stats go out the window because everyone's playing a cup final against Spurs. And I don't think having new owners is going to make a difference. Okay, the crowd will be louder. There'll be a buzz in the stadium because they've got rid of Ashley finally. In terms of the players, I don't think they've got any better players than what they've already got. Manager's still there. Whether they sack him or not, it's just a matter of time. Personally, I think it's just, every player is going to be out there to perform. But I think deep down they all know that half of them, 3/4 of them are gone, including the manager, backroom staff, whoever, whatever. So I think they're just going to turn up just to play and try and get into other sides. New owners, new managers. Okay, new manager, yeah, but new owners, I don't think they're even going to be there. I think they're just going to be there, right? And the money's going to be there, but it's not going to be an overnight success. It's going to be something that's going to be over the years and years, unless they do something stupid, which they can't do anything till January. So I think the players probably won't be as well. They'll be excited, but I think the fans are going to be, and I think that's the main difference is going to be the atmosphere in the ground is going to be electric. Now, whether that's Spurs or Newcastle, I don't know. Hopefully, it'll spur on Spurs. But I think that's about it, really. I think it's just going to be the fans because if you see the scenes the other day when it was announced and stuff, they're going to be on level 400,000 million, whatever level, because pure fact is they've got rid of that Ashley guy. Simple.
Yeah. Newcastle, I think Mark Ashley took over them 14 years ago, and probably for 13 years and 11 months they've wanted him out. You know, they didn't really like him up there. I've lived up in Newcastle, I probably mentioned before, for a couple of years. I've been to St James's Park a number of times and seen a few games there. It is absolutely mental. When I say mental, the fans are so passionate. You know, that North East have got Newcastle to choose from, Sunderland, and that's about it really. There's Middlesbrough around, but again, those three teams are quite separate in terms of where they are location wise. It's not like where Arsenal and Tottenham are. So, you know, it's very much a one club city, or one city club, however you want to pronounce that, or however you want to say that. And I just think that this whole owner thing is not, say for the game on Sunday, I think it's Sunday we play them. It's just going to give the whole of the city a lift. You know, they've been wanting this for such a long time. You know, the manager, Steve Bruce, has been under a lot of pressure. There's something like 19th in the league at the moment, wherever they are. The players, they're all going to get a bit of a boost. And this is what I'm saying. The impact that it could have on Sunday is not that, you know, these players are going to turn into overnight sensations. But for the first game, coming back after an international break, coming back after, you know, this announcement, I think it's going to have a bit of an effect on the actual game itself. You know, Mike, what's your thoughts?
Where are we playing? At home or away?
We're playing at St James's Park.
Away.
Yeah, that won't be. It won't be easy. I'm 50-50 on this. I know, like, with new owners comes sort of like a breath of. It's almost like a breath of fresh air, and sort of everyone's spirits are raised, morales are raised. The fans are obviously they're going to be dancing till the cows come home, really. But I still think, I mean, Newcastle as they are at the moment, they are a poor team, and just because you've got new owners, you've still got the same manager there. Who, I mean, how. Steve Bruce is still Newcastle manager after all these years. Especially when Newcastle they are a sleeping giant, and I think this takeover will prove that. But in terms of how it affects Sunday, I still, providing we've got the same sort of 11 that we've been putting out, sort of like, the same 11 we put out before the international break, I still think we'll win the game. It won't be easy because it never is at Newcastle for us. But I still think we should still be getting a win from that game, even though it's at Newcastle, even though they've got new owners. The bottom line is they've still got the same players, they've still got the same manager, same ideas, same tactics, same philosophy. That's not going to change in a course of a week. So. I get they got the fans, but
they won't have any fans in this weekend. Have you not heard?
What
Saudi owners have said that everyone has to be covered up, so they're not going to be allowed no fans in. No one can wear shorts. They got, they can't show their legs. They can't do anything. They're all going to have to be covered up, mate.
Oh, Sid. I was taking you seriously though.
I was thinking it as well.
Hey, what's happened here? And then he started on that, and I was like, "Oh, here we go again." But in all seriousness, I just think the crowd impact on this is more so, like you were saying, Mike. The players themselves, they're not going to change overnight. Their squad on paper is definitely not better than ours. They've got one or two good players, like Callum Wilson, St. Maximin as well. Like him as well as a player. They've got some threats, but I just don't see. Go on, sorry, what were you gonna say?
I'm not having Callum Wilson as I'll say this and I'll probably regret it, but I'm not having Callum Wilson as you know what I'm gonna say, but I'm not having that about Callum Wilson. I've seen him play. I saw him play quite a bit for Bournemouth, and he's one of those strikers who he's never going to be an elite striker. He's never going to he's never going to be an England regular, but he's also sort of probably a step above Championship. He's in between like the Premier League and the Championship in terms of quality strikers. So the only player they've got that I really like is what's his name on the wing? Maximum. Saint Maximum. Yeah.
I heard on the radio the other day, and I think they were talking about the ownership and blah blah blah, and they said they've only got 2 world-class players, and they mentioned the 2 players, Sam, you've just mentioned, and I'm like, Callum Wilson world class? What are they watching?
That's
I'm sorry, no.
Oh,
he's gone in the summer. Gone.
The thing is, though, would you? I know we have not. It's not really a show about that, but would you take him as a backup at Spurs, Callum Wilson?
Nah.
Oh, you wouldn't. You know what? I would. You know, I think he's decent. I think he's not world class. Don't get me wrong, but for a player, I think, because we've been quiet about him before, but I think he wanted to go to a club where he was going to play regularly. Now that he might be surplus to requirements, let's say, Spurs were to come calling for him in January potentially. You know what I mean? You wouldn't fancy it,
mate. He'll get you no more than 5 goals, and the rest of the season to be injured. He's just a walking injury. I honestly don't think he's good enough for what we need. I mean, for what we need as a backup, we need someone that'll be able to. Well, I'm using this word backup. It's for want of a better word, but if we get a second striker or a backup or an alternative, whatever you want to call it, we need someone that will be able to come in and hit the ground running and banging goals as and when we need. Bit like Kane.
International. He's an England international.
Mate, when was the last time he played for England?
I'm just saying. I'm only just giving the facts out there. He's played for England.
He would be an England B international if we still had the B internationals.
They give caps away.
In fact, it'd even struggle for that, because there's tenfold talented strikers. Bamford's another one straight off the top of my mind who could.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? So yeah,
But based on what Cody Mack said here, so thanks, Cody, for watching. They didn't even have Callum Wilson when they drew with us 2-2. We were overrun in midfield by John Joe Shelfie. I remember that game. Good grief, I couldn't believe he's one of the slowest players. Even when he's running, he looks like he's walking, and I can't believe he ran the show.
He was a good player, though.
He's a good player, but he's one of the slowest players in the world. We haven't fixed the midfield, really. Maybe Skip can help. Don't think St. Maximin played either. So these guys are all thinking that because Newcastle have played well in the past, particularly at St James's Park, that this might not be a game where we can take and there's no game in the Premiership that you can really take like to be fair. But I just have one of these feelings about this sort of thing with the crowd. The crowd, when it's like 55,000 in St James's Park, they are absolute crazy. When I say crazy, it's a mad atmosphere right now. I loved it every time I've been there. I wouldn't want to be an opposing player playing there because you're just going to get it. But these are players, professional, done it before. I just think there's going to be 5, maybe even 10% more extra coming out of the players. However, we should, with the players that we've got, hopefully, no injuries from the international break. Mike's not having it. He's not having it.
I'm just of that thought process that I'm hoping Nuno preps the players to be prepared as look, guys, this could be a bit of a hostile atmosphere. You don't know what to expect because I mean the Newcastle fans could be they could be buzzing, and they're obviously buzzing, but they could be the next game, let's just pack out the stadium and just make the place rocking, or they could just wait until just let the season continue as it is. Wait till they start seeing new signings come in, if they do come in, and then start packing out the stadium and stuff. But I don't know.
I think Sunday will be rocking because it's going to be the first game.
I wouldn't be surprised.
It's going to be. They're going to have more than 55,000 because it's going to be packed. It's going to be an absolute.
It's going to be packed.
It's going to be rammed. It's going to be rammed
packed.
Inside and outside.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's going to be
definitely.
I mean, they're diehard fans, aren't they? They're not going to, like you say, and it wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, they're not. I wouldn't have thought they're going to mess about, are they? They're going to, like you say, pack that stadium out and make it difficult.
There's this comment here from Moljo. If the clubs and players have any morals, they will refuse to sign for or sell to Newcastle. Nothing against supporters, but you cannot go work for them unless put money above everything. Well, we'll come to that because we've got another point to talk about here. Just going through a few more comments. Derek Hutchison, get Kane out and 2 quality strikers in. Brian Daigle, good evening, Brian. How are you doing? Big up, Brian Daigle. So everybody's on the Brian Daigle. We will not. I just got. Inside joke, Brian. You cannot.
Stop it.
I need to go to the next part of the show. Okay. Right, so the next part, money talk. So we seem to have an influx of money into the Premier League. It has been over a number of years anyway, particularly coming from the Saudi region, UAE. How would you feel if a Saudi consortium said to Daniel Levy and co, we want to buy Tottenham Hotspur and we are worth 300 billion pounds. Come on, Daniel, sell up. How would you feel as a person? How would you feel for the club? Does it not matter? Is there any ethics that need to be brought in? Or is it just a case of, we just need to join the party? Mike, what's your thoughts?
If you ask, this is a tricky question. This one. So if those owners that have gone to Newcastle came to Spurs and like you said wanted to buy us and they're worth 300 odd billion, my morals behind it would be like, these guys, they've got humanity issues back in Saudi Arabia, and that would play a little bit on my moral beliefs there. However, it's one of those, isn't it? You could easily just turn it around and be like, well, out of sight, out of mind. They're just giving us the money, and we're spending it on the players. It's a moral dilemma there. However, I've supported Spurs since '91.
The phone, yeah.
And I was 6 years of age. And I've not seen Tottenham successful, so I'd be like, show me your money. 312 billion, you said? Yeah, Levi, yeah, he's gone. Show me the money, buy me the success. I don't care. I want success. I want it now. You've got the money. Let's dance. That's where my thought process right now is. I'd be like, if you've got to get rid of Nuno to bring in a better manager, pay him what he wants, whatever. Yeah. If you've got to get rid of the players that aren't good enough, Delis, the Celso, whoever it is you think, as long as we see improvements, I would, as I say, I find it difficult to sort of be like, nah, I don't want that, because that money, we don't want that success that money will bring, even if it does buy. It'll probably buy Newcastle the bloody league at some point in the near future. Why can't that be Spurs? If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for Man City. It's good enough for Chelsea. I know it's slightly different in terms of the owners, but
it's a really, and that's the reason I touched on this. It's a really difficult one. When the European Super League come up, everybody kicked off. Oh, we shouldn't be joining that. We've sold our souls. We've done this. We can't join that. Football's been. And then Newcastle get taken over by that. So a lot of people saying, well, why haven't we been sold? Why have we been taken over? We need to spend. It's a real hypocritical situation to be in.
It's a hypocrisy. It stinks of hypocrisy.
The hypocrisy to me is absolutely crazy. The Premier League is based on money. We if you just go back in history, the teams that have money win the league. There's a couple of outliers in there, but generally it's the teams that have money, who pay the most wages, who spend the most on transfers, win the league. That's why Man United, that's why Man City, Chelsea have done that in the past. Newcastle have now joined the party. As a supporter of Tottenham Hotspur, do we want to get left behind in the gold rush? No, we certainly don't, because we're only going to be further down the pecking order. As you said, in 2 to 3 years' time, Newcastle may well be way ahead of us in terms of spending money. We all can say, does spending money equate to success? Well, if you look at what is, I was going to say exactly that. we cannot get it twisted. We need to see that.
It is, and I know, and you could say it's. I'm being sort of. I'm thinking of hypocrisy here with blood money, and you could argue that it potentially is, but for the fact that as I say, and there's people in the comments and stuff like your Brian Dagels, etc., that have supported Spurs, yourself, you guys that have supported Spurs longer than me, etc. We've been starved of success, and if someone's going to come in and show us the money, it's like we'll just turn a blind eye of where it's come from, and we'll just spend it for you.
It's a proper Jerry Maguire thing. That is, show me the money. Show me the money. You know, that's what it's going to be. Let's not get it twisted. We might all have this moral high ground now and think, oh, Newcastle, they've sold out. They've got, these guys are ethically wrong and they've done this. But if somebody came in and said, we'll buy Spurs and we're going to spend £1 billion on players over the next 5 years, do you think as fans we would say no? Sid, what's your thoughts? Do you feel like if a similar consortium came into Spurs, how would you feel as a supporter?
There's a comment there by Maljo. If you want to put it up, he's probably nailed it there. It's gonna be a sore note with a lot of people, especially if the Saudis are coming in with what's going on over there and all the human rights stuff and all that business. It's going to be a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. I know what you're saying. At the end of the day, yes, we want success. We've been starved of it for years and years, but there's ways of doing it. We could have had this success if Daniel Levy and Joe Lewis actually pumped the money that they've got, because he's not a poor man. He's got a lot of money, right? We're 6th, 7th richest in the world. If he pumped some of that money into the actual players and bought decent players and that, I don't think we would have been in this situation. I personally don't think we need...
Just stop you there. Some people would say, and I'm only going to put this out there, that we're doing the things the right way. In terms of what I say by the right way, we're not going against this financial fair play, which I don't even know exists. We're not spending money that we, eventually, if we don't, as a business, you don't spend more money than you have if you're a business. That's what business should be about. But we've seen that if you've got a really rich owner that wants to have and use a club as their playground, like the Roman Abramoviches, like the Sheikh Mansour from Man City, and they're willing to just do things to spend their money, that's a different way than what Joe Lewis and Daniel Levy. You can clearly see it's a business. They are trying to do things. I'm not defending what they've done, everything they've done in the past, but they haven't gone about doing the things that these are. They cannot match 300 billion. Of course they can't. But certainly you could ask Mr. Lewis, chuck in 500 million of your pot. He might decide that, right. But what is that going to now do against the likes of City, against the likes of Liverpool, against the likes of Chelsea, against the likes of United, and now it's the likes of Newcastle?
Do you know what it is, right? You can have all the money in the world, right? And you can throw all the money in the world at players and at wages and whatever, right? You're now going to get players that just want to come to the club,
of course,
right? for money and for wages, right? Them players ain't going to be the best players in the world, but if someone offers you 500 grand a week just to come, right, then you're going to take it. You might not be a superstar. You might be just average Joe playing football. Yeah. He's not bothered. He's coming in for the money. And if you've got that kind of money, you're going to start blowing money on players. I mean, Chelsea have done it. Chelsea have got like 40 odd players out on loan. They've got how many players they're buying and selling? They're just buying them like for stupid money and getting rid of them for stupid money. So me personally, I would rather we spent it wisely and got players that are actually want to play and want to win, not just come in for the money. I know 300 billion they've got is a lot of money, right? But once they come in, then you're going to have, who knows what else is going to be going on in the background and stuff like that. And then, I mean, everyone's assuming that these Saudi owners have come into Newcastle and tomorrow morning they're going to have 300 billion to spend. It's not going to happen that way. They might even come in and say, you know what, you ain't going to get. Yeah.
You can't spend that money anyway.
Say, no, you can't. But they might come in tomorrow and say, do you know what, we're only going to give you a budget of 100 million a year every season. They might not even get that. You know what I mean? Just because you got...
This is where the moral...
300 billion.
Yeah, my thoughts are just a little bit different. I think the reason, it's almost like, people kind of see the Premier League as being this massive, gateway to be able to make money as well. Now, it's
just a playground, isn't it?
It's a playground. And that's what I think that's the right phrase. These guys are going to be in competition with the likes of Sheikh Mansour. They're going to be in a competition with Roman Abramovich. They're going to say, well, hold on a minute, Roman, you're spending 200. Why don't we spend 500 million? It's going to become like that. And the comment here that I think Cody made earlier, and if I go back to it, and someone's also mentioned it, don't we think that the Premier League is now becoming its own Super League? If you look at it now, you've got 4 teams you can say are top 4, and they're the richest clubs in the Premier League currently. We're in and around that 5th, 6th, 7th, wherever you want. Newcastle are now going to come in as players who are, when they spend this money, and if they get it right and they get it 2 to 3 years time, maybe a little bit more, they're going to be a big player, because a bottomless pit of money will always get you players. Morals kind of go out the window when it comes to Premier League and players being, you know, there are going to be players that are going to stand by their morals. But if you said to somebody, you know, you can stay where you are and earn 50 grand a week, or you can come to Newcastle and sit on the bench for 150 grand a week, what are you going to do? A lot of players these days.
You name me a person that's going to, and yet this is the thing though, like 150 grand, yeah, okay. You've got the moral of, well, I know potentially we know where that money's coming from, but we're all here to, well, the footballers are there to make themselves money and to earn a living and provide for their family, and they're not just setting sort of them and their families' futures, or setting their families' futures. They're setting it for future generations. And if they can make a stack load of money, who in their right mind is going to say, "Nah, I don't want that. I'm happy to stay on 25, 30 grand a week. Don't worry about your 300 grand." It's just difficult to, like. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I just want to stop. I just want to get to this comment because it's one of these things that Moljo's right. Honestly, if that's how you think on this channel, I'm out. I'm sorry. We're not glossing over the human rights. This is what I just want to explain. We're not glossing over that. We're actually putting that out there as fans, because the hypocrisy, what I'm saying, is about the Premier League and about these owners that are coming in. There's so many stories about how Roman Abramovich made his money. Yeah. There's so many stories about how Sheikh Mansour made his money. Now, we're not as a channel saying that it's right, it's morally right to sell your soul. So I just want to get that point across, because, you know, people might think we're advocating. I have got, you know, a lot of time for all the issues that are happening across the, you know, we have to look at that as fans, but it somehow gets diluted when it's your club. You know, it was very easy to say this about Spurs. All right, we don't want to be selling ourselves, but, you know, we're looking at success, and success is all about spending money. Now, you have to have some moral dilemmas in this, because it's obvious. You know, you don't want to be owned by someone who's, you know, doing what they're doing across. And again, we have to be careful here, because it's not a political thing. We're just looking at how it might affect us as fans and as supporters. But we're not saying that this is the right thing to do. It's just a point that's being raised by us as conversations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just another comment here. If Spurs that were taken over by Saudis, I would turn my back and walk away. And people have that right. That's exactly what we're saying. It's nobody's saying that it's the right thing to do, because morals and ethics and all that has to come into play. It does. But if we're saying that, then football is already gone. You know what I mean? Football as it stands in the Premier League has way gone.
It's a playground full of billionaires. I mean,
it's like Monaco, isn't it?
Well, you could argue how anyone that's got that substantial amount of wealth hasn't been surely through legitimate reasons. I mean, you look at Roman, and there's, like you just said, Sam, there's plenty of stories about how Roman attained his wealth. You could go through all those Premier League chairmen, and I'm sure they've probably got numerous stories about how they've gained their wealth, etc. And it's that it's a moral dilemma, isn't it? However you look at it, it's a moral dilemma. I mean, you'd kind of hope that Tottenham, if they were ever going to sell to someone, that it would be someone that has a relatively squeaky clean background. But
that's not going to happen nowadays.
It's not going to happen.
No, we somebody that kind of money.
Again, we're looking at this is why you have to look to the Premier League for these things. They've allowed this takeover to happen. So where are their morals? Where are the Premier Leagues? They're talking about, you know, oh well, I don't know what the justification was to sell. Obviously, someone wants to buy Newcastle. Mike Ashley wants to sell, so the deal's done. Premier League could step in. They could easily step in and say, "Right, hold on, because of the moral dilemma that we now have, this is not something we want to advocate." But it's too far gone. They've done this already. It's too far gone.
What happened with the fit for purpose test? Is that 100%. Something that's just is that gone? Is that, well, they didn't they fail it the first time around? So what's
they failed it the first time, and then they got their whatever in order, and the FA approved it. So basically, we don't know what's gone on there, but it's been approved. And you know what? Mike Ashley's probably got over 300 million, so he's probably got more than he wanted. So he's going to walk away.
Oh, easily. I mean, you can't blame him for selling you can't blame him for selling. I mean, someone's offering you much more than what the club's worth. You'd be mad not to sell it. But again, it goes back to that moral dilemma of
he's been trying to sell for years. Mike Ashley's been trying to sell for years. They've wanted him out for years. He's come close, not sold. He's come close, not sold. He wants to get rid of the club. If someone says to him, Mike, we've got 300 million for you here, and I don't know how much he bought it for initially. Oh, I can finally get a deal done. This is business. I don't know any billionaire, and I don't know many billionaires, to be honest. But what I'm saying is, I don't know any billionaire that's got their money from standing in line saying, okay, I'm working hard and saying that's it. There's always something. You don't become a billionaire by just playing by the rules. Do you know what I'm saying? No. None. Don't care who you are, whatever business you're in, you don't make that sort of money by just saying, okay, I'm going to work really hard here, guys. Doesn't happen. There's always something behind it. So we have to open this conversation up and think to ourselves, has football sold its soul? Are we going down this route? Are we creating mini super leagues within our own division? I think we are.
We have already.
We really have.
Football sold its soul the day the Premier League was created.
100%.
That was the day that in effect, not only did we sell or did football sell its soul, especially in the UK, but you could argue that was the day that the Super League was created. I mean, it is essentially a Super League now, isn't it? It's just full of billionaires, and you're only going to survive really in the Premier League if you've got that sort of money.
Football, we've talked on it. Now we are going to have. And it's already, you can already see it was a top 6. It's now become a top 4 because, I guess Arsenal and Spurs have kind of dropped out of that in a sense. And I can't see that changing anytime soon unless, again, we have this input of money. But Sid, would you, again, is it something that, I don't know if you welcome it, but how would it be that we could get somebody of that sort of level, but be, I guess, morally in a position where we could say, yeah, I'm okay with that. If that was to be the case, I don't know. What's your thoughts?
We don't need someone who's got 350 billion, even if someone's got 10, 20 billion, right? And there's a lot of people out there, 20, 30, 40 billion. Even somebody like that, right? That's more than enough. I mean, at the moment, right? I don't know how you guys feel. We're the most expensive season tickets. We're the most expensive for kit. We're the most expensive for everything. The only thing we haven't got at the moment is one of the world's most richest billionaires as an owner. But everything else, we're so expensive. So can you imagine if we got somebody, say, for example, the Saudis came into Spurs, can you imagine what the prices would be? I think it would, people like me, for example, right, I've got 4 season tickets. I'd probably think I'd be probably priced out of a season ticket if somebody like that came in, because we're already expensive in every other department. So, 300 billion is a lot, but I'd take somebody who's got 10 billion, 15 billion and come in.
I think they'd have to balance it out, though, isn't it? I mean, you can't. It's different. This again. It goes back to this whole moral situation, doesn't it? Like 100%. You could argue if Saudi billionaires came in with the sort of the substantial wealth that Newcastle owners have, if they put the prices up. I struggle to see how they would be able to do that. Do you know what I mean?
And you know what's an even bigger dilemma for people? And I guess this might go down for the Newcastle, because it's obviously going to be fans in there thinking, we don't want this money, it's ethically, morally wrong, whatever. Yeah. But if they come in and start to regenerate the area, because there's parts of Newcastle, not so much around the stadium, because the stadium is in the city. If they start to pump in and regenerate the area and make Newcastle a major flagship city, which it already is in the northeast anyway, but makes it even bigger. You can start, investing, more investment starts coming in. That kind of brushes a little things under the carpet. Not to say it's not gone, but people will kind of give a little bit more of a, well, you know what? They're not as bad as I thought, because they're actually doing things for our community and doing things for the city. This is going to be
hypocrisy, though, isn't it? It's still hypocrisy.
That's my point, because this is what Man City are doing. If you look around what City have done around that sort of area, they've completely transformed it. Same with Chelsea, completely transformed around that area. But it doesn't take away from the fact where the money comes from, does it?
Yeah,
take away.
And they've spoken about that, haven't they? About regenerating the Newcastle City. But it boils back to that fact of the money's still coming from the same place. Yeah, they might do good insofar as regenerating Newcastle, which in turn will bring create new jobs, etc. But you're still being funded by essentially, well, you could argue it's blood money to a certain extent. Do you know what I mean? It still reeks of hypocrisy. So I don't know. It's one of them, isn't it? Like, however you look at it, I don't think. Yeah,
there's no right answer. I don't think there's a right, and that's the point. I don't think there's a right answer, and it's only when you're in that position that you can really start to open up. It's very easy for us to stand here and throw sticks at Newcastle and say, 100%. "Oh, I would never do that because it's the effort, all this." But when our club then gets put in that position, and you think about how starved of success as a big club that we are, Newcastle are exactly the same. You cannot tell me them fans are going to say, if they win the Premier League 3 times in a row and they win the Champions League twice, they're going to turn around and say, I didn't want that. Yeah. Of course you want that as a fan, but you are going to maybe take into account or maybe brush under the carpet some of the morals of how you got there. And this is the point we're trying to raise on this debate here. It's about what do you feel would be the case for you?
And this is go on, sorry, go on. You go. I
was going to say, look at Stavely. She's now part of that deal. She's now got 10% of that club. Yeah. So she knew exactly what she was doing, because whatever that club's now going to be worth, she's got 10% out of it. So she's laughing all the way to the bank. You know what I mean? She's gone from like having almost nothing under Mike-Hotspur now. She's probably already a billionaire, probably. So, you know,
overnight,
she's just exactly.
But they could give her $1 billion and have 322 left. That's the sort of money they've got. It doesn't make any difference to them. So it's really it's monopoly money. It's monopoly money.
I hate to think how much money they're earning interest through other business interests that they've got. It's probably not even touching the size, is it?
Yeah. There's some really good points coming in from people. Sean Hill, thanks, Sean, for watching. I think Leicester owners are rich, but have less of the blood on their hands. And that's probably true, but we don't know all the history about. This is the other point. We might not hear everything. You know, people have to maybe dig some deep. If you're in a club and you do your history and do your research, and you could probably find out a lot more about a lot of other owners. I don't know half the stuff of how Joe Lewis is made. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But I know he's our owner. But unless we start digging deeper and find out about his ethics and his morals, like I said, billionaires don't become billionaires by just being okay. I'm going to wait in line. It doesn't happen like that.
The more pressing topic should be, how have Newcastle United's owners, which we're never going to find out, but how have Newcastle United's owners passed the fit for purpose test? Like, 100%. There's no way they would have passed that. But money talks, doesn't it? So, I mean. 100%. You'd have to be very naive to think maybe that money potentially might have passed hands.
Like how we saw with all the FIFA stuff when, you know, there was all this about, you know, sweeteners and golden handshakes. I wouldn't be surprised. And obviously I cannot state for facts. We don't know how the Premier League's been influenced by these owners coming in. We don't know how things might be put to them in terms of how they can benefit. Obviously, the Premier League is going to benefit. The more money that's being spent on players, the more it's going to generate, you know, revenue. The more it's going to generate sales across the season. So it's a win-win situation. That's maybe why this moral test or whatever it is kind of gets put to the background, or certainly not thought of as much as it should be. But again, we're all making assumptions and, you know, assertions or whatever the word is. Right. Let's move on to the last part of the show, because this is really good. Time will tell. So where do you see Spurs in 5 years' time compared to where Newcastle could be in 5 years' time? Sid, where do you think we will be compared?
It's all ifs and buts. Like I said before, all this, the billionaires coming in, it might not improve Newcastle. They might, you know, players. Don't forget, they've got all the riches. Some players might not want to go to Newcastle because, don't forget, it's cold up north, very cold, right? So some of them ain't going to be adjusted to the climate over there. They might not want to come and play for Newcastle. I know they keep saying they're like a sleeping giant or whatever. 5 years' time, Enoch might have gone, Daniel Levy might have sold, we might have got somebody, not billionaires, but we might have someone who's got money. You know what? I still think we've got better chances under what we've got at the moment to win trophies. We've got the players, we've got the stadium, we've got everything there. Newcastle have got the stadium, they've got the fans as well, but they haven't got anywhere near the quality of players that we've got. Okay, you're going to turn around and say, well, they can go and buy all them players. That's fine. That's fine. But it's not going to be an instant success. And within the next 5 years, they might not win anything. After 5 years, 10 years, maybe. But within the next 5 years, they might not win anything. And we might, who knows, we might win a trophy or two. I don't know. But it's a long project for them. It's not going to be an overnight success. It's going to take time. And between now and then, we've got more chance of winning trophies than they have.
You know what?
I hope you're right, Sid.
I really do. I was going to say exactly. I really hope you're right, Sid. But I can't see anything other than Newcastle having success on the pitch, because they are going to be competing with the bigger boys. You know, the established big boys, as it says. But as we've seen, if you do pump enough money into any football club, it will give you a level of quality within that, so you are competing at that same level. Now they've obviously then got to compete to get into the Champions League, so the top four race is going to be very, very interesting when, you know, you've got the likes of the established four, you know, you've got the likes of Spurs and Arsenal still knocking around there, the other teams, and then you've got another major player in Newcastle who are throwing oodles of money at players to come. Darius, welcome in the house.
I'm so sorry, by the way. I was called up by work. I'm very apologized for that, but I'm here. And I'm here to discuss a new superpower. So hit me with your first question, Mr. Sam.
Well,
I've been wanting to talk about this.
We're on the last one. We're on the last question.
Oh,
God.
I'm so late.
What we was just talking about, time will tell. So what we were saying is, where do you see Spurs in 5 years' time compared to where Newcastle may be in 5 years' time? So you can answer that before I come to Mike. What's your thoughts?
Just in general, just on the Newcastle thing, I think that Spurs fans, I'm surprised by sort of the worry by Spurs fans, because for me, the decline was inevitable from about 2-3 years ago, and it just seems like, and this is not sort of, for me, this is not a straight away sort of initial thing that's going to happen. I think this will be like they've said, like Amanda Staveley said in an interview, it's going to be a 5-10 year project for Newcastle, and I just think that the way that they're going to go and the money that they're going to spend, it's not really, I don't think we should be sort of getting scared. I think it's inevitable what's going to happen. It's just, what I want from Spurs is to sort of show that we can compete with teams who are on that money by sort of finding other ways to sort of go about it, because you don't always, and I know a lot of people say that, you don't always have to have the money to sort of become a successful team. There's other ways around it. Obviously, money is the main reason, and if you want to sort of fast track your way to success, money is the obvious factor, but you can improve other aspects of the team, like, for example, the scouting network, like, for example, just anything in general, the academy, certain things like that you can improve to sort of see similar results. And Newcastle, I think Newcastle are going to be a superpower in the next 5-10 years, but I don't think it's going to be an immediate thing like a lot of people think. Yes, they have money to spend straight away, but you can't build a squad in a year and expect them to sort of compete. So during the time that they're sort of building this squad that we're expecting to see from a team that's worth 10 billion pounds, I think that in the next 5 years, it's massive for Spurs to sort of keep on that competitive level, because I don't think with the money that they've got, we're going to be able to sort of compete with them financially. So we can sort of work on the infrastructure now that will put us in a position to at least not get left behind, because that's the issue. It's not a case of sort of competing, it's a case of getting left behind, and that's the problem.
I'll say then, what I'll add to that then, if, as we've seen, we've already had our resolve tested this season and we've resisted it. They've offered 100 million for, and this is Man City, this is Harry Kane. Let's say come January, and I know what the answer will probably be now, but let's say it was when Harry was in his prime, they come along and offer 200 million. Would we then become a feeder club? Is that something that we can then turn down?
That's not feeder club, is it? Like, for me, if any club, if Accrington Stanley offered you 200 million for Harry Kane, me personally, I'm taking it. I don't care who it is that's going to offer the 200 million. I don't think that makes you a feeder club. You selling your best player. I understand what you mean about.
Hold on. So if you're not selling, if you do that and you sell your best player, if you think that's not being a feeder club, what do you then do with the 200 million? Because we've seen when we sold a player for 100 million, we don't obviously get what we got in.
And,
so what I'm saying is, you can sell a player for 200 million, and you can say you're not a feeder club, but you are, because if you're not bothered about the finances, you'll keep your best players, which is what we've tried to attempt to do now. It may have backfired because a player like Harry Kane,
but that's what I'm saying. The player that you're choosing in Harry Kane has made very apparent that he didn't want to be at the club. And if it was Sonny who was offered, if he offered 200 million to Sonny and he sort of goes to Newcastle for 200 million, I would agree with your statement. But I think in the context of Harry Kane, and if we're talking about Harry Kane specifically, then I think because he wanted to leave, it doesn't sort of justify, or it doesn't make us a feeder club, in my opinion. Because if a player wants to leave, and you guys can see from the past, 5, 6, 7 games that we've been in the Premier League, Harry Kane's not scored yet. I think it's quite apparent that his form's sort of been affected by what's happened over the summer. If a team offers you 200 million for a player that already wants to leave, who's got 3 years on their contract, not going to go up at any time, it's only going down their contract. For me, it's a silly business move to not accept that money. I know you put your pride aside and you look at PSG, and yes, they could have sold Mbappe for 170 million. Real Madrid offered them 170 million for a guy who's got a year left on his contract. They didn't accept it for pride reasons, because they want to be known as PSG. We're not going to sell our best player. But realistically, if you've got a guy who's going to be able to go on a free literally in January, and a team's offering you 170 million euros, I think it's quite silly to deny that. So I don't necessarily think that it's...
But if it's got the money, 170 million is not anything to PSG. This is my point. To somebody like, if you're offering 200 million, you may as well offer 500 million if you've got 310 billion pounds. 100%. It doesn't matter. So,
and they don't care about that. So they will throw money. And I understand what you mean about that. But what I don't get is, we've never been a club to do that. So for us to sort of change initially over the space of a year, 2 years, I'm not expecting like that. I'm not expecting anything like that from Tottenham. So
let me ask Mike. Let me ask Mike. I just want to get to some other comments. So what do you think, or how do you see us being in comparison to Newcastle in 5 years' time? Do you think that we would maybe become a feeder club, or do you think we're going to stand our ground and try and compete with them on the footballing side of things and not be able to spend the money? What's your thoughts? Because I don't think we're going to be able to.
I can only keep thinking that Newcastle have got 320 billion reasons why they're going to buy their success in the next 5 years. I just can't. It might be slow going in the first season. Like this season, it might be a little bit slow going in terms of purchases. I think they're gonna. I can't see them not making a marquee signing to make a statement.
Do you think it will be initial though? Do you think the success that we initially think, or we inevitably think, will come Newcastle's way? Do you think that's going to happen over the space of a year or two? Because I don't really think that's going to happen.
I don't see it this year. I'm praying they get relegated. I mean, I see there's a couple of comments in there, and I'm like, yeah, do you know what? I agree with that. I pray they get relegated. That teach them for selling their souls. But
it's not a question, is it?
It's not a question. But again, I can't see them not making a marquee signing in January.
I've already heard that Brucey's not going to be in charge by the game on Sunday, so they are making moves, and I do believe you're right in what you're saying, Mike. It's just
they haven't got the patience. These guys aren't going to have the patience. They're not going to.
I think they will. I really think they will. I think they
don't need to have patience.
There's a difference between Newcastle and City. I think Newcastle, and I went to Newcastle away. I think it was the 2019-20 season. I think it was the first game of that season. I went to Newcastle away, and I was taken back by sort of the fan appreciation and love that you have in that city. And even just as small as like when I was there in Newcastle before the game started, every single pub in that city was filled before game time. And I just think that when you've got such a strong footballing culture in a one club city, because obviously Sunderland are they in League One now? They're not competing with Newcastle anymore. When you've got such
they got a massive fan base as well,
massive fan base, such a 56,000 seated stadium, and they already sort of agreed with the council to extend that to a 70,000 seated stadium. It's inevitable for me, the success, but I don't think it's going to come straight away. So what I'm saying is, Spurs, while we are struggling at the moment, we've got the players to sort of almost get a head start over Newcastle before they start, building that team that I know that they're going to build, because I know it's inevitable they're going to have a very, very good squad, but I just I just don't think it's going to happen over the space of
Okay. Let me just throw it out there properly.
We can take advantage of that small gap.
Do you think between now and 5 years' time that Newcastle will have more success than Spurs? And what I mean by that is, will they win more than Spurs in that time? Given they have now got an owner with 300 billion.
I think
we're talking 300 billion. We're not talking about 300
They're not
million.
going to spend that 300 billion straight away.
It's right. It's right.
They're not going to spend that. Are you telling me now that between now and next season they're going to go and spend?
I didn't say next season.
Not 300 billion. They won't go and spend 300 billion.
I read legally, well, not legally, but in the constraints of FFP, in January they can spend 190 million without selling. Yeah. So they're going to spend. I know they're going to spend. But what I'm trying to tell you is, there's a lot of good teams in the Premier League. It's not like 5 years ago where you bring in, I don't know, even a Leicester or whatever. There was about 4 or 5 good teams. I think there's about 7 or 8 good teams in the Premier League now. And while money obviously is an obvious factor to success, you can't speed up time with money at the end of the day.
Okay.
You're going to have to sell and buy. You're going to have to sell and buy.
I want all of you to answer. I'm going to be silly here. Let's say they spend between now, January, and the next summer window for the next season. They go ahead and they buy, let's say they buy Mbappe, right? They go and buy, I don't know, who in midfield could we really say?
Who's Alwa? Who's at Lyon?
Let's say they buy Jude Bellingham from
Bellingham.
Let's say they buy what's his name up front for Dortmund. Okay, Sid. Let's not go too far.
I've seen links, to be fair. I have seen links to Dele Alli, to be fair.
Let's say who's a forward for Dortmund again? I've forgotten his name.
Haaland.
Let's say they buy those 3 players. Let's say, for instance, are you all telling me that is not quite instant successful?
Of course not. But
right.
realistically
so that can happen. Realistically, that
can happen. But is it going to happen?
I don't know. This is my point. I don't know. But if they spend the money and they said, okay,
if they
say, we want 200 million for Jude Bellingham. Here you go. Have it.
I think a marquee signing for Newcastle in this current moment that they're in, because let's not forget, like you said, Sam and Sid, they're 19th place. They haven't won a game this season yet, so they do have to think about staying up in this league. I think, in my opinion, a marquee signing for Newcastle would be somebody like Anthony Martial, Donny van de Beek, who's a top player, but is on the fringe of their club. And I think that Newcastle will go. I don't think they're going to go and. Newcastle are not the club where Mbappe is going to say, yeah, I don't care what money I'm on, I'm still going to join it. That's not going to happen. I'm hearing that the first player that linked with somebody like James Tarkowski, in my opinion, that's realistic. And I can see them building a squad who we're going to look at, and they're going to sign players who we think they're good, but they might not be what the player that you're not going to be able to spend. I don't care what you say. You may have 310 billion, but you're not going to be able to spend that money. They're going to have to be smart. And I'm hearing things about Ralph Rangnick and stuff like that. They're not going to be able to spend that Mbappe money. They're going to be smart. They're going to be smart.
I told you, you know what? I agree with exactly what Darius is saying. The likes of Tarkowski, other players like that. Tarkowski, who's better than where they are now. If they get offered a contract by Newcastle, right, they'll go there because they know I'm going to Newcastle. I'm going to double my wages or whatever. 100%. Even if it means I'll sign a 3-year contract, I don't care. But they know we'll just go there. Like even Ali might, even they offer him stupid money or whatever, he'll go there because they know might be a step down for Ali, but for the other lot, it's a step up. They're going to go there. Even if they play for a season or 2, they've made their money and they're sorted for life. That's it. And then, so I totally agree with Darius. That's the kind of players that they'll get in the time being.
Let me ask Mike. If they came in and they offered 200 million for Harry Kane, would Spurs sell to Newcastle? And would Harry Kane want to go there? Because I think if he's been offered 300 grand a week, as much as he might say, no, they're not a Champions League club, he's going there. I'm telling you, he's going there.
Do you really think that? Do you really think that, Sam? Realistically, do you really think that?
Yes, I do.
That's crazy to me. That's really crazy.
Look at the game, how the game has gone so far with regards to money. Lionel Messi left Barcelona. As much as he wanted to take wage cut, he's not playing for free. As much as he loves the club, he's not earning less than he was at Barcelona, at PSG now. He's earning more money. I don't care what anybody tells me. Ronaldo doesn't come back to Man United because, I love
highest paid player in the world.
He's the highest paid player. So come on, money talks. So Harry Kane is told, right, we'll get you, Harry, we'll pay Tottenham 200 million and we're going to give you 500 grand a week. Harry's going to go, What's that, Spurs thanks? Come
You know
on.
what?
I
disagree.
the only
I
reason-
actually
I'll drive
disagree.
him there.
I disagree as well. Only on this basis of Kane wants to win trophies, and he won't win trophies overnight at Newcastle. So,
Oh, I hope it doesn't
You know
happen.
what? It's
I'm
gonna-
gonna-
it's gonna
I
be-
can't wait for I told you so. I cannot
It's gonna
wait
be-
for
No.
I told you so.
I think the thing is, Sam, I think the I told you so isn't going to come straight away. You could see Newcastle win an FA Cup or something like that. I understand that. But these guys and these owners and sort of the consortium that have bought Newcastle, their intention is to replicate what's happened at Man City. And that isn't going to come overnight. There's too many good teams in that Premier League for that to happen overnight. I agree with you. I think that Newcastle in 5 years' time will be a solidified sort of top 5, top 4, top 6 team. I do agree with that. But I don't agree with the notion that because they've brought in or because an owner worth 310 million has come in, it's going to be instant success and they're going to be able to bring in any player. I understand Newcastle were.
it won't be instant success in terms of this season, but I mean,
But that's what I'm saying. If you bring in sort of the players that I was telling you about, sort of James Tarkowski, who's going on a free next season. Players like I'm just saying, like Tariq Lamptey, these sort of players who you may think have a chance at a big top 6 club. And I would take Tariq Lamptey as a right back for Tottenham, but that sort of Newcastle is going to be that team where it's like it's just before top 4.
I just want to add this as context. Just want to add this context, right? If you're someone who's worth £300 billion and you know a little bit about football, and someone comes to you and says, "You know what, Mr. Rich Man, we're going to go out and get James Tarkowski," you're going to turn around and say, "I've just bought this club for 300 million. I don't want him. Get me the best." They're not going for these players. These James Tarkowskis and whatever names, they would not come into this game to do that. They are going to come in here.
But he played for Burnley. That's the thing
I'm not saying they're going to get the success by buying these players straight away. But if they bought Harry Kane this season for 200 million and paid him 500,000 a week, within 2 to 3 years, Harry Kane will only be what, 30? He's 28 now, 31. He's not older than Lewandowski, who's currently, 34. He's still got time. He can win something with them, and he's earning twice as much money.
Yeah, but they might
now.
move. He might get moved on though, mightn't he? In a couple of years' time, they might. You know what?
Yeah.
Kane, he was relevant about 2 years ago, mate. But now, yeah, you see that young lad over there, Haaland or Mbappe or whoever it might be.
But you've got to, like you said, mate, you've got to get to that. You've got to get into that sort of, because a lot of players, and I've noticed this now, a lot of players want Champions League football. And if Newcastle finish 4th, exactly, mate. If Newcastle finish 4th next season, then I would 100% be on board with what you're saying, Sam. Because if they had Champions League football to offer these players, then they could also offer them the wages and the possibility of playing in a 50, 60,000 seat stadium with diehard fans. I understand that, but I do believe that a lot of players don't sort of value Newcastle like that. And I know the wages are going to sort of sway players, but I also think that Champions League football and sort of that prestige of playing for a bigger club, a big club.
I 100% agree with the older players. Like
the older players, exactly.
Kane, he wants to win trophies. Why would he go to Newcastle this season? It just doesn't make sense.
His career is not. He doesn't have 5 years to wait, Harry Kane. He's not a project player.
Let me give you some examples. Let me give you some examples from down the road. Mesut Ozil, what's his name? Aubameyang. They both were on significant amounts of money. Now, Arsenal have won a few FA Cups. Those two players, you could say, could go to a Champions League team. Both those players weren't prepared to drop their wages to go anywhere. Aubameyang has signed a contract to Arsenal that's worth 350 grand a week. He could have gone anywhere if he wanted.
Who's going to take him though? He isn't
scoring. If he's on a free contract, he could have gone anywhere. So somebody would have taken him at the Champions League level. I just don't believe this fact of because we're not Champions League, I don't want to go there. But if you're offering me money, you're gonna. If they offered me money and I said I don't want to go to, I'm gonna get paid because I think I can see that potential down the road. I know it's gonna happen.
I get that, and I get that. But like Mike said, the older players. You don't have 5 years to wait, and just on the Arsenal thing, I agree with you, and the point that you made, I 100% agree with, and I think it's very valid. But the thing is with Arsenal, and as much as I hate saying this, Arsenal have won Premier Leagues in the past. They will always have that sort of history to, like Liverpool, they will always have that to sort of fall back on.
They ain't winning the Premier League in the next 5 years, though, are they?
But they will always be able to say that we're Arsenal, we're a big club, we have won in the past, and I think that
We're not
Newcastle
winning the Champions League in the next 5 years, are they?
But can you? I understand that, but like at the same time,
But it's not about. It can't be about the footballing side of things because he knows deep down they are not spending that money. So that the example about Aubameyang, I'm giving that because he knows he's not going to go anywhere else to get that sort of money at this moment in time.
Because nobody's going to
to
offer him that stupid money, though, is it? Like,
not about his footballing morals, saying I want to win this. I want to get paid and stay at Arsenal. I don't care if I don't win that much. I'm getting 350 bags every single week for the next 2 and a bit years. I'm staying there.
I understand that. I do understand that. But I just think that everything that you're saying is going to come to fruition once the ball started rolling, if you know what I mean. I just think that these first initial couple of years, I'm not saying it's going to be a struggle because with the money that they've got, it's never going to be a struggle. But what I'm saying is you're not going to see initial straight away success. I highly doubt you'll see Newcastle initially being successful straight away. I think that there'll be a gap, 2 years, 3 years max, where you can sort of take advantage of the fact that they're still building, if you know what I mean. And that's where I'm saying Spurs aren't going to ever sort of be on the level that Newcastle will potentially get to, but we can also not sort of fall to the waistline or fall to the side because Newcastle are building a squad. I still believe, like we said, with the stadium that is generating a lot of money because we have seen a lot of events happen in that stadium. I do believe, and with Paratisi in charge, I do believe that we can sort of keep to a level, maybe compete with Newcastle before they start, attracting the bigger players because they're not going to attract the Mbappes and Haalands as much as they have the money to. Haaland and Mbappe have their mind set on sort of winning the Champions League, not just competing in the Champions League. They want the big clubs. So Newcastle has to sort of get that stature and get that sort of clout before they can sign those players. So there's that little gap. The 2-3 years it's going to happen in these next 2-3 years where Newcastle will make moves. But I'm not saying that Tottenham are going to fall beside because Tottenham have a good squad. We just have to build on it. Whether the board build on it is the question that we have to ask.
This is what I like to Mike then. And this is what I was saying. So my point was about this part of the question. Where do you see Spurs in 5 years' time compared to Newcastle? Do you think Newcastle will be below us or do you think Newcastle will be above us in terms of league status? Mike, what's your thought? They will come to see.
No, I don't think there is anyone on this planet that are going to say in 5 years' time with 322 billion bags in the bank that Newcastle are going to be below Spurs. I just cannot see it. From as much as I would love to see it, realistically, I can't see that. I actually worry a little bit about Tottenham insofar as how we're going to compete. Now, I get how I get the vision of I think what Levy's sort of planning and where he sees the club going, and you can see it now already with the stadium, with the NFL. It's very clear that we've just bought a golf club not so long ago, and that's turning into an NFL training sort of hub for the NFL, etc. So I think you can see where Levy sees Tottenham sort of becoming not just a football club, but a brand. And I know there's going to be certain people in the comments that are going to be a bit pissy with that. But that is, I think, realistically, if Levy and Joe Lewis stay here, I can only see them going down that route to make us sort of be able to compete. And it is the only way for Spurs to be able to compete. Sell us as a brand.
It's a self-sustaining model, isn't it?
It's the only way. Create Spurs as a brand, not just at football, but beyond. And we might have the money and the financial backing to sort of make us compete with the likes of your Man Uniteds, your Liverpools, your Chelseas, your Man Cities. We're not going to be able to compete with Newcastle because we're never going to have that substantial wealth that they've got. But I do. And the thing is the more of these, they're not billionaires, they're multi-billionaires.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I know this is almost like an investment type group to some extent, although you could argue it's probably the Saudi government that have brought Newcastle. But I just don't know how, other than the way that you can sort of see the vision that Levy's that Levy's going down, that route he's going down, I struggle to see how else we could compete. And for Spurs to compete, I think us as fans may have to sort of be open to becoming more of a brand and just being narrow-minded as just being a football club, because we're just going to fall by the wayside. And it depends on, again, this goes back to what your morals are. I mean, if we've all stick by our morals and be like, no, we don't want to be like Newcastle and accept owners that have brought the club as to what the Newcastle owners and their background, then fine. We'll just be a mid-table Premier League club if we're lucky. But the only thing I can see this doing is just creating sort of more clubs having more billionaires. I mean, you look at Sunderland, you look at Middlesbrough. Okay, I know they're not in the Premier League, but they've got a massive fan base. They've got everything in place other than a good football team. Good football team. I can just see it becoming a billionaires playground, a multi-billionaires playground, not your billionaires like your Joe Lewis of, he's got 3.5 billion. Well, maybe 5 years ago, that was a lot of money for the Premier League, but now it's almost like, well, you're small fish in the Premier League.
Yeah. To have single digits as a billionaire, and how much it sounds stupid, but to have single digits as a billionaire is not really, you're not rich in football terms in the Premier League anymore. Sid, in 5 years' time, do you see Newcastle being consistently above Spurs in terms of league position, in terms of trophies? What do you see in 5 years' time?
In terms of trophies, I don't know. I mean, exactly what Darius was saying, it's not going to be an overnight success. It's going to take a few years.
5 years is not overnight. 5 years.
In 5 years' time, then who knows? Saudis might not even be there, mate. They might just think, you know what, we've had enough.
Not a chance.
See you later. You don't know. We might end up getting some Russian billionaire. I don't know, whatever. But I think.
But that comes with its own morals, Sid.
I know.
A Russian billionaire, an oligarch, isn't going to be clean, squeaky clean. They've got a background. Half of them are involved with the Russian government and stuff. These oligarchs are just as bad as the Russian.
Like I said, there's no moral billionaire, is there?
There's no moral billionaire. They're not a billionaire because they've been.
Can't have a moral billionaire. So it's like you have to sell. I'm going to ask you this, Sid. Like, would you? Me personally, I don't give a shit. I don't care. Like, if we win a trophy because a billionaire's put money into it, I don't care where they got the money from. Like, as much as rival fans want to get onto Newcastle for sort of behaving like this, if Tottenham got taken over by Qataris or Saudis, there's no Spurs fan in this planet, bearing in mind we haven't won a trophy in 13 years, there's going to be like, oh no, morally, I can't accept this. Come on, bro. You've never even seen Joe Lewis's money, so why are you going to care about anybody else's money coming in? So, sorry to interrupt you. I just think that we just have to basically accept that we got Newcastle hit the draw. It's a perfect business opportunity for them. £300 million, one club city, 56,000 seater stadium. It's a recipe for success, in my opinion. So, unfortunately, you can't get angry because, like a comment said as well, in my opinion, we were fucked before Newcastle got taken over. So it's like just sort of using the Newcastle takeover as an excuse for Spurs to be even more behind. It's sort of papering over the cracks of what Levy and ENIC have done over the past 3 years in terms of not spending, not investing. So I think this was inevitable from 2 years ago. The Newcastle takeover doesn't make any difference in sort of Spurs' trajectory, in my opinion. I still think we're going the same direction. So yeah.
So I'm going to come around to all of you then, and I'll start with you, Sid.
No,
go on. Well, have that point, and then have your final thoughts as well. Go on. So what you're going to say.
So going back to your question, in 5 years' time, if the situation is as it is now, with what we've got in owners wise and the way they spend their money, then yes, I think Newcastle will win more than we will, because so far under Daniel Levy, he's not spending the money. We're not winning stuff, and if he continues to do so, then they will have the riches, they'll have the money, and they will buy. And they'll win more than we will. So that's the answer to the question.
And final thoughts?
Final thoughts, you know what? Let them have the billionaires. It is what it is. We've got to deal with what we've got. They've got to deal with what they got. And as they say, may the best team win. And
I want a billionaire. I want many billions here.
You know,
I want one.
You know what? they're gonna be banging out that song every day now. Do you want to be my gang, my gang, my gang? Because that's what it's going to be. It's going to be gangs.
Grandpa Stevens has been banging out the comments this evening. He's had his stitches.
He's killed the comments.
This one here, he says, I still don't understand why anyone would buy Newcastle, though. I'd be looking at building a space colony with that kind of money.
Boy.
He's come out with a couple of ones.
He certainly is. Darius, what's your final thoughts before we finish?
I'm not going to lie to you. Like, again, I'm not trying to be controversial on purpose, lads. I promise you this, but I'm actually kind of happy for the Newcastle fans. They've been, if there's any club in the Premier League that's had it worse than us, probably Newcastle. And Newcastle have had it so bad. Like, I'm not even going to lie to you. They don't deserve that, because those fans at Newcastle, they are one of the best fans I've ever experienced. Like, St. James's Park is an amazing stadium to go to. I've got nothing against Newcastle. I've got nothing against this takeover either, because at the end of the day, like Sid said, like Mike said, this is the way the football's going. So why are you going to get mad at sort of the inevitable that's going to happen? This has been happening since 2003-4 when Roman Abramovich took over Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like it's a waste of energy to get mad at this situation. What you can get mad at is sort of being left behind when there is this opportunity to sort of compete still. Like I said, I don't think, and Sid said this, I don't think the success is going to come overnight. As much as the amount of money that they've got is almost unbelievable, and it is almost staggering to think that they are worth 310 billion pounds. Like, my brain can't comprehend the amount of money.
Isn't it 320, mate? 322.
Yeah. And like, that's what I'm saying, like 12 billion pounds. 12 billion pounds. We're going on like 12 billion pounds isn't the same GDP as a country. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I just think that there's no point in sort of Spurs fans saying, oh, look at Newcastle, they've got this and we've not got this, because at the end of the day, it could have happened to any club. And I think that business wise, Newcastle's probably the best club you could have bought for 300 million pounds to sort of build a super club around. So I'm not going to be jealous. I'm not going to be mad. What I'm going to say is we have to use this as sort of motivation as Tottenham Hotspur to continue to not let teams get the better of us, because Leicester, Villa, these clubs, while I don't believe they're above us in terms of stature and quality of squad, it's not that far away from them sort of being above us. And as long as we can keep our best players, which we seem to be able to do at the moment, and build on the squad, I said this earlier on, the squad isn't that bad. And with a few additions, smart additions, you can actually probably see Spurs staying around the situation that we're in. But if we don't act upon if we don't act in the next 2 seasons, we will be a mid-table team before you know it. And we're on that trajectory already, which is what scares me the most. And that's why I'm most scared. The trajectory that we're on hasn't changed because Newcastle have been taken over. It's just fast-tracked it. So
100% fast.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I'm not scared about Newcastle becoming Premier League champions or Premier League giants. I'm worried about us sort of reaching the end goal that I believe Tottenham are working towards. It seems like it's now been sort of bumped up 2 or 3 years a bit faster. So I just want to see a little bit of initiative now, a little bit of competitiveness, because the squad that we've got isn't that bad. I really do believe that. And I still say that. I know a lot of people think the squad's bad, but I really do believe with a few signings, that squad is actually quite competitive.
But the problem for us, in 3 years' time, say 3 years is probably a realistic time scale.
Realistic, yeah. In
3 years' time, the problem for us is not only we can be going to be competing with the likes of Villa, your Leicesters, your Evertons. I'm sure I've missed someone else out of the top 4 at the moment, but you're now competing with Newcastle. And when
they will build a good squad, you know they're going to build a squad, don't you?
This makes our life difficult.
Breaking news. I want to come to Mike for his final thoughts in a minute, but my thoughts are this: in 5 years' time, which is the question I posed, in 5 years' time, if Newcastle have those owners and they spend their money like they've got, it will be 5 teams competing for the Premier League on the current basis of what we're operating and seeing now. And we know the 4 already. Add Newcastle
City,
to that.
Chelsea,
we are going to be competing. 100%. Yeah. We are now competing in a separate league to all those other players, because history, apart from Leicester, suggests that money wins the Premier League. History suggests that money wins the Champions League. There are outliers, don't get me wrong, these competitions are based around finances. If you've got the most money, you're more likely to win the bigger prizes.
Yeah.
Mike, what's your final thoughts?
I probably agree with what you've just said there, to be fair. I think you've hit the nail on the head. 5 years' time, I honestly worry where we're going to end up. I go back to, I get the whole Levy's vision. You can see it's clear as day as what his vision is and what he's trying to create. But we're, like you just said, there's going to be 5 teams now. Well, 5 teams, and you could argue Man United and Liverpool might start struggling unless they find.
Well, their squad sort of, that's what I was going to say. Liverpool's front three are entering that cycle where they're going to need to start to rotate that front three, aren't they?
So, I know Liverpool and Man United. I mean, their club's not built on the fact that they've got billionaire owners. I mean, the club is their biggest club in England, probably in Europe, etc. So I think they'll always be all right. But you're never going to see a Leicester City win a Premier League again. That's done. It's gone. It's never happening again.
Do you really think that?
100% done.
100%.
That's so sad.
It's sad.
You might see it. That's a once in a lifetime. When they say a once in a lifetime thing, that is it. We won't see that in our life. Based on the way the game's going, we will never see that. We'll never see that. You can't.
And that's where you could argue now we're in a European Super League already, just an English version of that. But I think I echo what you guys have just mentioned. I do worry about our sort of trajectory and where we're gonna be in the next 3 years. I just hope, like, this is what frustrates me now, right? With the ownership that Newcastle have got, in not so much that they've got multi-billionaires that have brought the club, but I mean, we turned down apparently we turned down sort of a part ownership. Someone wanted to buy a part ownership of Spurs. We turned that down. I think there was talks of like £800 million. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what the rumor was. We've still got stadium rights that haven't been nothing's been done with that. I mean, me personally, I like to see just sort of stuff moving along now, just to see like, we are off the field financially going to be able to compete with I would say the top 5 now. I know Newcastle, not as a team, but as a club, they are top 5 in terms of financial backing. It just worries me. I'm worried.
Money just equals, at the end of the day, money just equals inevitable success, and we don't have that money to throw around. So it's like we can't guarantee success. You can almost guarantee Newcastle success, which is why we're sort of scared, because it's like we're not saying, oh, if Newcastle build this squad, if Newcastle get to this, we're sort of saying when Newcastle build the squad, when Newcastle get to that stage, because we know that's going to happen. With the money that they've got, they're going to buy the best of the best. I'm hearing Ralph Rangnick is one of the lead persons to sort of take over the whole club and be a director of football. So if he does take charge of that club, I promise you in 5 years they will be competing for the league, because he knows what he's doing. So
where does this all end? Like
it ends, like I said, Mike. It ends with it's a money war. At the end of the day, it's a money war. Whoever's got the most money will, like Sam said, will end up most likely winning the league. So we know what's going to happen. That's what I keep saying. We know what's going to happen. It's just how can we sort of compete?
But there's got to be an end to this cycle. Like,
there's no end. I don't think there's any end.
This cycle will end with the rebirth of a European Super League again. And those richest teams get together with the rest of the richest teams, like the PSGs and all those others, and create something of an entity where they can create more wealth and have the best. Because that's the only way it can go. It's the only way it can go.
It is.
Billionaires Boys Club.
It's exactly that, and if anyone can't see the European Super League, it will happen. It's not. It's
happening.
It's a when. I mean, it's already happened in this country. You've got a European Super League now. I mean, any teams that come up from the Championship. I mean, what's Brentford? Right, look at Brentford.
Yeah, but Brentford, even Brentford, like that's what I was saying about sort of Tottenham. Like Brentford have got such a structure behind them that allows them to compete. If you don't have that, Brentford don't have an academy. They only have an A team and a B team. There's a strong structure with Brentford that allows them to compete. If you don't have that structure, you're not going to be able to.
But that structure is only going to be suitable to a certain extent.
Maybe
to survive in the Premier League, that structure could survive. That could help them survive, but they're never going to be competing for leagues or trophies or anything like that.
Exactly.
If you look at how the league was formed, the Premier League, it was born because it was a money-making ability. They sold rights all over the world. and that was just the Premier League. That was the Barclays Premier League at the time, whatever it was called back then. If you have a few billionaires who are worth hundreds of billions, not single billions, they get together and say, let's create our own entity. We can throw as much more. We can get all the biggest players, all the TV rights, we get them all together, and we can create an entity which we can sell around the world. And you can be part of it. You can be part of it. What's going to happen? It's inevitable. I'm sorry to say.
Inevitable. That's the thing.
Done. As we know it, football is done. From this happening now, we are going to see a massive change over the next 5 to 10 years in how we view football. It's a business already, but it's now going to be a rich person's game. It's going to be a rich owner's sport, and that's all we're going to see. Oh,
you know what? As bad as this sounds, I'll try to end it on a little bit of a note. Maybe the Super League is a little bit of a blessing in disguise, because these big clubs obviously want all the money. They obviously see them in their leagues and they're like, well, we're making most of this money in our leagues. We want all the money to ourselves. And I get that. Probably the Premier League, La Liga are probably taking a lot of revenue from these clubs. But at the end of the day, if this Super League happens, it's going to sort of just derail. It's going to sort of delegitimize the Premier League, because you're going to lose 5 of the biggest clubs. So if Tottenham end up not even going to the Super League and winning the Premier League, how much are you going to care? Do you know what I mean? Because Man City and Man United aren't in there. So it's inevitable these big clubs control football. Like,
this is your whole goal.
The championship it will be equivalent to the championship in 5 years. In my opinion, that's what it will be like. Yeah. In my opinion.
And this goes back to the whole hypocrisy, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's all hypocrisy, because you look at where the money's coming from with Newcastle owners. You look at UEFA, FIFA, with the European Super League. The game's gone, mate. It's gone.
We can really go on.
I'm sorry if anyone thinks I'm being depressed.
It's the truth, mate. It's honestly the truth, mate.
And guys, listen, we could probably go on for another hour on this. We really could, and it's been really good. Thanks for all the input from all the people. I know some of them are a bit controversial in terms of some of the views. What I just like to point out again, I'm not saying, I don't think any of the panel is saying it's right for things to happen and go against the ethics and the morals against what
do anything about it, can you?
Owners. What we're saying is, if the situation was put in our hands, how would you feel as fans? That's the debate we're trying to have. Not to say it's right. That's one thing. Because I know we had a few comments coming through to say, oh, well, a suggestion that's what we should do. And that's not it. So I hope that's been cleared up. But thank you all for watching. Like, subscribe, share, comment. Paxton Road TV. We are now 1,000 subs plus. We're looking to create more and more content. Arsid on Friday. Is it Arsid on Friday?
It is.
It is Arsid. Anything you want to shout out about Arsid on Friday, Sid?
It's going to be about the centre-back pairing. So get your comments in. What is our best centre-back pairing?
Good one, Sid.
Who would you have? So get your comments in. Let's get talking now. Forget about all this crap takeover business. Let's concentrate on the 3 points on Sunday. And who's going to be the centre-back pairing that's going to demolish Newcastle and put them back where they belong. Come on.
Love that.
We get 3 points Sunday. That'd be a nice way to start Newcastle's new reign.
We may as well keep supporting the game that we know whilst it still exists. So come on, Spurs, for Sunday. That's all I can say. Anyway.
See, look, I've got people already commenting on the centre-back pairing, so come on, continue.
Mike, Darius, Sid, thank you very much. It's been an absolutely fantastic show. Nearly an hour and 23 minutes, just over now. So we've done well. We've got a load of comments. Again, thanks to all those viewers watching. Thanks for all your comments. Also, put the comments in after the show as well, if you're watching this on Catch Up, as they say. And also look out for Artsid on Friday. Make sure you send in your views and comments for that. And look out for the preview show Saturday, 12 o'clock. And the review show will be just after the full time. I think we kick off at 4:30, I believe, on Sunday. Can't remember. But anyway, we do. Paxton Road TV, thank you for supporting us. And we are gone.